couple of things. The Lions proposed two big rule changes today. First and foremost, an amendment to the current playoff seeding format to allow wild card teams to be higher seeded than division champions if the wild card team has a better record than the division champion.
Just like last year.
Like we saw the Minnesota Vikings, a 14-game winner, have to go on the road and play at, I believe it was L.A. that won 9 games. I think they won 9 games, or 10, regardless what it was. And then also, they want to eliminate an automatic first down on a penalty for defensive hold or an illegal contact. I cannot tell you. I think that is the biggest crock when it's 3rd and 15 and you get a little 5-yard rink-a-dink penalty.
Hold
and
the
you
jersey
get
for a second.
and you get a 15-yard penalty. Dave Birkett joins us now. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing good, buddy. Do either of those rule changes have any shot of being changed?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, historically, the Lions' proposals have done pretty well. They proposed the change in the emergency quarterback rule a couple years ago. That passed. You know, last year they had a couple proposals that passed. One about sort of the makeup of the roster at cut day. So, look, it'll be interesting to talk to people when we get out to the owners' meetings in a week and even the competition committee next week when they have their conference call on some of this and get a little more sense of it. You know, I think this is not the first time that changing the wild card seeding, playoff seeding structure has come up. And so I don't know that will pass. You know, this seems to come up every, 5 or 6 years. A team finishes 500 in the division or worse. And, people, say, they shouldn't have a playoff game. But, historically, there's always been a push for that division to matter. So I don't know that that's going to change. I don't know that the appetite has changed for that. We'll see on the holding call. I know, that really is something that, especially when it happens away from the play, that it really grinds people. But, that's a tricky situation too, because, 3rd and 12, why not just mug a guy and make sure he doesn't get a catch then if that's going to prevent you from giving up a first down.
No doubt. Hey, Dave, what has the offseason done so far? What is the offseason, the free agency period, told you about Brad Holmes and the direction of how this Lions Super Bowl championship will be built? Have you gained any sort of feeling about this is what Brad Holmes is, this is what's going to happen, and this is what he's going to do?
It's probably solidified what we've already known, right? That they're just going to build from within, build through the draft. I mean, if there was a chance for them to go out and get a pass rusher or spend big on someone that might help at a position of need, it seemed like this might be the year. I know, this was never realistic in the NFL or within the walls of the Lions, but Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson's still out there right now with, potential to get in a trade. So, all these guys that seem to fit this big need that the Lions have, and it's been pretty quiet from the Lions standpoint. So, I'd be, I think what we've seen through the past 5 years, the way that they've built this thing is probably how they're going to continue. And that's drafting well, taking care of your own, supplementing that with veteran guys on short-term deals that don't hamstring you when it comes to the salary cap. I'm sure we've talked before. I've always been of the belief like, hey, go get that superstar. You built it once, you can do it again. There's a time and a place to do that, and I think the Lions are there, but that doesn't seem to be the way that Brad, will approach that.
Hey, Dave, do you see the defensive line coming back the way it is right now, or do you see him going out and maybe re-signing as a Darius Smith, or do you think they just wait and draft a defensive end? Maybe they move up in the first round. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I still think there's a move to be made there, probably two. They could, definitely draft. I think they definitely will draft a defensive lineman somewhere. I mean, this is such a deep draft when it comes to the defensive line. For those who haven't got into the draft yet, very, very few blue chip prospects and maybe not a whole lot of first round guys, but it's considered, pretty deep in rounds, late 1, 2, 3, and especially at the defensive line position. So I'd be surprised if the Lions didn't draft a lineman, given that, Josh Paschal's entering the last year of his deal, and Levi Onwuzurike is on a 1-year deal, and there's so much long-term need, I guess, at that position that it certainly makes sense to address that. Maybe there's someone out there veteran-wise too who they can get. A Khalil Mack is, or I'm sorry, not a Khalil Mack, a Von Miller is still out there. There are situational role type players out there that you can get that maybe aren't that every down big defensive end, but that can help you in some way, shape, or form.
Somebody home there, Dave? Is that a That looks like they're gonna have to wait.
Tuesday at 2:30, we go answer it live online.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Just have the dog go get it.
Just let the dog go get it. Dave, you mentioned Levi Onwuzurike.
There it goes again, man. I don't know what it is.
Amazon. Tell your wife to stop ordering those Amazon.
Oh,
He's getting swatted.
Dave, you mentioned Levi Onwuzurike on a 1-year deal. I think I saw that currently in the NFL right now, there are over 700 players on 1-year deals. Is this just the way the NFL is structured right now? You're going to have, your 3 or 4 or 5 guys on the team get paid, and then everybody else is kind of in the doorbell 1 year kind of.
Did it just ring again?
It did just ring.
Go get it, Dave.
Dude, go get it. I mean, you might go get it, please. Yeah, let's see what the hell. Let's see what's up.
We want to see what the hell is that Dave's
not a crazy
Birkett's
stalker.
house.
Right, you got to sign for something.
It might be his kid.
No, you got to
the
sign
key.
for a package. I bet you got to sign for a package.
Or his kid forgot his key.
It could be a
Hi,
candy
you're
gram.
live on Woodward Sports.
What up, though?
Yeah, I'm busy right now. I can't talk.
Oh, sorry, man. Thanks.
What was he selling, Dave?
Why you got
I don't know.
Why you got to treat the brother like that? Why you got to treat the brother like that, man? What that brother do? He was trying to ring your doorbell 9 times.
Oh my God! What the hell, man?
All he did was ring your doorbell 12 times, man. You ain't have to send that brother out there like that. No, I'm just messing with you.
When you ring the doorbell like 6 or 8 times,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like
Right.
the right time.
I mean, seriously, ring it once, maybe twice, but then leave, man.
He was a little out of pocket.
Ring
He
it
was a little
once
out
or
of pocket.
twice, man. Anyway,
We'll have to
Dave.
address that at the next brother meeting.
Well, seriously,
Right.
you
telling you,
gotta
calm that
tell him
down.
6 to 8 times. Let's go.
Maybe
Dave,
you wanted a book, Dave.
the 1 year back to the
right.
one. Is he back in the door? He didn't ring it again, did he?
No.
Okay, all right, but just back to the 1 year deals. I mean, clearly this is something that has really worked out for the Lions too. That we've seen, and when a player it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt you. It's only a 1 year deal, but whether it's C.J. Gardner-Johnson a couple of years ago, Marcus Davenport. Hey, you know what? They sign the players. It doesn't work out. You're not tied to them. You take a shot. You move on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think with Levi, it may be a little different situation than some others, right? Levi, the first 3 years were, he battled the injuries with the back. My understanding at least was he was seeking a decent payday in free agency, and maybe he didn't get it. Obviously, he didn't get it if he came back to the Lions on a 1 year deal that someone not associated with Levi but that saw the contract, told me the other day was like, I can't believe like 6 or 8 other teams didn't, give this to him. And I'm sure there were other teams willing to do that. He was a solid player. He had a good year for them. But, I think for Levi, it's a 1 year deal. So maybe he can come back and do it again and get paid next year. Where a guy like Marcus Davenport, he's had this long injury history and 2 straight years of doing it. And I don't know that he was going to get that type of deal yet because of the recent injury history. He's coming off injuries rather than a guy like Levi who is, coming off a healthy season and maybe teams want to see him do it again. So, yeah, there are, the NFL certainly has come to a point where, there's obviously the guys at the top of the food chain that get paid, extremely well. And then there's that next range of players, Derek Barnes, right, who gets a really nice contract and multi-year deal, but, maybe not the exact type of security that, the elite of the elite get. And then, most everybody else, you're on 1 year deals. And, whether that's for vet minimum or slightly above, it's a prove it deal in some way, shape, or form. And that a lot of rosters across the NFL are constructed.
DB, you shouldn't have any more concerns. I text my cousin, told him leave you alone, so you should be good. It should be good. No. Look, this is where I'm at with it.
If he's going around the neighborhood, when we get done here, I'm going to go find him. But it was about 6 or 8 weeks. I don't know.
He probably lost his job through the DEI. Look, check this out. You got Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, KC, the Los Angeles Rams, the Washington Commanders, not to mention your own division. If Brad Holmes wants to operate like this, who am I to say anything? This is where I'm at with it. Just make sure you construct a team that is going to be good enough for the schedule that you'll face in 2025. With that being said, I do have a question. Let's focus on our division. Last year going into the season, we pretty much knew it was going to be Green Bay. That's what we thought. How Love played at the end of 2023, how that team was. Matt LaFleur had its guy, the rush, the defense, yada, yada. I don't know anymore. Minnesota has a loaded team. They added some weapons on the defensive side of the ball. Green Bay, kind of like the Lions, hasn't made a move. Chicago has gone all in, spent all their money, at least almost so. Where are you now with who's the team? I know no one in Detroit fears anyone. Let them tell it. But who's the team in the division that you're like, okay, this is probably going to be the head-to-head this year? At least right now.
That's a good question. No, it's a good question because I think it's a really deep division. And Braylon, you bring up a great point, right? Like the Lions' entire schedule this year, and you guys already know it, but it's chock full of playoff teams and outdoor road games against good quarterbacks, and it's going to be tougher for them. I still think they are the class of the division. I still think they're the best. They have the best roster in the division. The second best roster might be the Vikings, but I don't know what to make of that with J.J. McCarthy. He's a guy we haven't seen yet, and I know they did it with Sam Darnold last year, and so maybe you think J.J. can do the same thing. But those other teams are really like toss them in a barrel, and I don't know who's going to come up second. Like the Packers are still very young. They had the second youngest roster in the NFL this past year. They didn't do much in free agency, of course. The Bears got significantly better. I think they will be better. I think the division will be tougher because it will be deeper. The Bears will be better. But I still look at the division and say the Lions are the best team in this division with the fewest question marks, as long as, Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, those guys come back from injury at some point. So I would think at least that it's the Lions' division to lose. And then maybe it just depends on who plays, when for who you have coming in second. Between Minnesota, Green Bay, and Chicago.
I agree with you. I think for the other three teams in the division, it's about the quarterback. They all three have question marks, and even Jordan Love, he didn't take that step last year. I know he was injured, but he didn't take that step that I thought he would take. Let me stick with Minnesota real quick and J.J. McCarthy. I feel like I'm Ryan Ermanni all of a sudden. Why is it unfair for us to assume that J.J. McCarthy drafted number 1 overall, who had success in college, although not throwing necessarily, still had success and was a leader, and was coached by Jim Harbaugh, who he knows what he's doing in the NFL. Why can't he assume to have success under this team that the Vikings have? Because Brock Purdy was the last player drafted 4 years ago, and you saw what he was able to do with a team that was fully loaded. I feel like I'm Ryan Ermanni. I'm lobbying for JJ
for
but
life.
That's a real question, though. That team, as constructed on the offense, wow.
No, I'm with you on some extent, too, because – Patrick Mahomes, would he play one game his rookie year, right?
There you go,
he came out in Zealand year too. So sometimes, and Dan Campbell had said this, I was going back at some point and looking at, I talked to Dan the day, I think I was doing something in New York, and they were asking me, about what Aaron Glenn wanted in quarterbacks, and, we were kind of going back to the beginning of it. And Dan Campbell, I talked to him the day they traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams, that morning, before the deal was consummated. And it was when, Stafford, we still didn't know what was going on and kind of what do you look for in a quarterback and your philosophies. And, he talked about, he likes a dual threat guy, and he's cool with like having somebody sit because, it helps them. And so that's been in the back of my head about J.J. McCarthy that, maybe it's beneficial for a young guy to sit back and learn. We all want to rush him. We all want him on the field. That being said, I think there is a little bit of because he didn't take any reps last year. All those guys in Mahomes, like he was still practicing. He still had a full training camp. He still played a little bit, at the end of the season. So I think that's why there are more questions about J.J. McCarthy and what he can be and how quickly he can be that, than with some of these other guys. So I wouldn't discount the Vikings and dismiss what they could do this year. It's a big question mark because he hasn't seen the field in a year's time.
Hey, Dave, what about the opener, the NFL opener in Philadelphia? It'll be on Thursday Night Football. We know that the Lions opened up in Kansas City a couple of years ago, and I ask because I think about momentum. Like this team, it feels like all the life has been sucked out of it, whether it's losing the coordinators, losing to Washington, not having a big free agent signing this offseason. In terms of NFL storylines, I would have guaranteed you Lions at Eagles last year, like when the season ended. But now, is it sexier to have Bears at Eagles on opening night? Washington at Eagles, Rams at Eagles on opening night, a repeat of the championship game. Where do you think the Lions' story is in terms of the NFL landscape?
Yeah, no, I think Lions-Eagles makes a lot of sense late in the year, like Lions-49ers was last year. Maybe it doesn't play out sort of like last year, how you imagine. But, when there are two teams that you think could be battling for supremacy in the conference, like it makes a whole lot of sense to save that for a primetime matchup late in the year. Now, that doesn't mean it wouldn't be, it would be a draw early on, but, it's the NFL opener. I don't know that the league would want to put one of its marquee games there. You think back to the Lions-Chiefs game, there was some buzz about the Lions, but I don't think anyone, 2 years ago thought the Lions were going to be as good as they were, maybe not to the extent that they were. And so I think that's the type of game maybe that they're looking for. Maybe it is a rematch. Maybe there's, I don't know the Eagles' full schedule, but maybe there's another game that the Bears, you mentioned them, right? Sort of an up-and-coming team that has a little buzziness about them. So, the one thing about the Lions, and I've said this, is like the buzz for next season, I think it's going to be completely different than it has been the last 2 years. In that, everyone thought the Lions were this team on the rise, and oh my God, we're going to do it, and we got to be a part of this. This is our team. There's this fear of missing out. I think next year is going to be a lot of, prove it to me in the playoffs. Like everybody still expects them to be good, and people will still, go to the games and pack the stadium. But I don't think there will be the same type of buzz about the Lions next year that there has been the past 2 seasons.
Hey, Dave, going back to the free agents that came and went already, I had my eye on a guy, young center, former first-round pick from the Vikings, Garrett Bradbury. For some reason, I just thought, man, this guy would be a good fit here. Again, Frank Ragnow, we all know he's one of the best centers in the game. Obviously, injuries and age catch up with you eventually. I just thought this Bradbury kid would have been a good find here for the Lions under Hank Fraley. He goes 2 years, $12 million now to the Patriots. It's just, I don't know. Did you ever hear anything, any buzz about this kid?
No, I think, that one happened pretty quick. I don't know that there was enough time to have any buzz, right? Maybe he was, connected to them before, and that's why that happened so quick. I do think, going back to like the combine, I was told out there that to expect the Lions to sign an interior lineman, guard if they didn't re-sign Zeitler, somebody that could compete for the starting job. They have Glasgow coming back. Obviously, he didn't have his best year. They've got the young guy, Christian Mahogany, who they're high on. So they have 2 starting caliber guys, but I think they want a third one in there. And Muti, the guy that was hurt last year, the interior lineman for them, I know they liked him a little bit last year, so maybe they have another one of those guys on the roster already. Yeah. But this is a Super Bowl caliber team. You look what they did bringing in a number 3 quarterback or another quarterback to battle for the backup job when, you didn't necessarily expect that. I would be very surprised if the Lions didn't add another interior lineman who was capable of starting or at least would compete for one of those starting jobs.
I'm with you. I know the Vikings retooled their entire offense and defensive line, added a half a ton of poundage onto that line. So this kid was available, only 3 years in the league, first-round pick. I just thought, man, that sounds good. Now, out of the teams.
Real quick, Maz, not to interrupt, but, the 2 names, Brandon Scherf is still out there, veteran.
Yes.
He's sort of like a Zeitler. He's been there a long, long time. And Will Hernandez got hurt last year. You remember, Brad Holmes at the Combine, he was talking about going back and watching, the Lions early season game against the Vikings or against the Cardinals. And, they were watching a free agent on the offensive side of the ball. That wasn't Roy Lopez. He said offensive side of the ball, and it makes sense that it was Hernandez. So he's not healthy right now. He's coming off the ACL. So I still think there are some options out there at that position.
I agree with you. And last one from me, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Packers. Who do you think did the best in the free agency? Who do you think is better for sure than they were last year?
Well, the Bears, I think, are clearly better because of what they did on the offensive line. And, I'm a believer in Ben Johnson as a coach and the way that he calls plays. So I do expect them to take a step forward. I think the Vikings, though, to Braylon's point about J.J. McCarthy and why can't he be good, they improved their themselves as well. They kept some guys around. Obviously, they're going to get Darisaw back from injury. He got hurt last year. He was having a really, really good year when he did. They still have Justin Jefferson. The question mark with the Vikings really is the quarterback. And so if in the fact that they were so, lukewarm on bringing Sam Darnold back and doesn't appear like they're in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, according to the reporting from Adam Schefter or NFL Network, I forget who, maybe that speaks to their level of confidence in J.J. McCarthy.
The great Dave Birkett. Buy a book, everybody. It's right there. It was right there on your screen. Anyway, author of Detroit Lions, an illustrated timeline. Get it for your the biggest Lions fan in your family. Of course, Freep.com. Dave, we thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate it.
Thanks
for
Dave.
the time.
I got to go.
Go
get the door, man.
Doing our lawn. I think that's what he was. Looking out the window. There seems to be a truck out there or something.
Go get him, man.
We had our first service yesterday. I don't need a new one, but I appreciate it.
Hey,
he's at your neighbor's house now, still ringing on
100%.
Hey, Dave, get a Ring doorbell, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I should, right? We have the light outside the garage. We don't have the doorbell, but we have the light outside the garage.
Big floodlight.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll see you, man. Have fun at the meetings.
And look, and this is what the NFL has done, right? You talk about the NFL, it has the Super Bowl, then it has the Combine, then it has free agency, then it has the owners' meetings, and then it has the draft, and then it has the rookie minicamp, and then it has the OTAs,
the schedule.
and then training camp. It is perfectly scheduled out to stay in the news 365 days a year.
Correct. Yeah.
The NFL is genius.
Yeah.
How they do this stuff. We are talking about these rule submissions, and I think the Lions put forward two very good rules. I absolutely love the idea of the non-automatic first down to a ticky-tack foul. Ticky-tack penalty of, hold or something like that. I do disagree with this one, though.
Why?
With the wild card team, if they have a better record than a division champion. Why? Because I think you need to be rewarded for winning your division. Look, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, but tell that to the South winner the last 4 years.
I understand. At 8 and 9,
you
could. I understand, but that is also
obviously you don't.
That is also one of the things that makes the NFL great.
But it's not great.
To me, and again, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to tell you my opinion is I think you should get something.
You do. You get in the playoffs.
Have a reward for winning a championship.
So 14-win Lions last year, you would have been fine with them going on the road to L.A. And L.A. won 10 games. And we had the best division in football.
What you could do.
Right, it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
You win more games, you deserve the home field. That's it.
So then get rid of divisions then, I'd say. I say if you do that, you have to get rid of divisions like the NBA does. The NBA got rid of divisions.
No, they didn't.
Well, essentially they did. They've got your central champions and all that stuff, but
it doesn't count for anything.
But it doesn't count for anything.
They reseed. Why can't the
NFL
reseed?
I don't believe they. You could reseed. You could reseed.
That's like a college thing, though. Reseeding would be for a college ranks. Like reseeding in the NFL, like the team with the most wins is the number one seed.
Agreed.
Essentially,
the team with the most wins should have home field.
Right. So you said reseed.
Yeah. So in other words,
So let me ask you
I
this.
see what you're saying, Richie, but they don't move. I see what you're saying.
why should the Vikings have to go to the Rams
Well, let me ask you this.
when they won 4 more games than the Rams did?
Can I ask you this? If a team that is 10-7 is better than a division champ who's 8-9
Yeah.
or 9-8,
Yeah.
let's just say 9-8, should that division champion be left out?
Of course not.
Why not? A team
You won your division, you get in the playoffs. That's your bonus.
Well, what about the team that won 10 games? You're leaving a
I see
team
what
out
you're
that
saying,
got won 10 games.
This is why they do it like they do it, because this right here.
Hey, you got me.
They
I
had
won.
these
I won more
conversations.
games.
Hey, you got me.
But you didn't win your division.
So what?
So
I
he
won- I
could be
won more
left out.
games.
They could be left out of
you
the
didn't win
wild
the
card.
division.
Is what you're saying. They could be left out. A wild card could knock them out. There could be 3 11-win teams, and the 10-win team don't get in. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay, you got me on a stipulation.
He's fair.
I mean, 11-win team not getting in.
It's happened before. It happened to the Patriots.
I know.
That was a 10-win team and didn't get in at 6. Well, no, it was 16 games.
Right.
I don't know. I just find it mind-boggling that I win 14 games and I got to go to Atlanta, who won 9 games.
Yeah, but it's like it happened one time. Like it was 14-14, going for 15. It happened one time. Like out of the majority of the time that they run it, it worked.
Let me ask you this though: if
I got to tell you something.
hold on 1 second, if Detroit and Minnesota were the 1 seed, the 2 seed, automatically the last week of the season, is that game as big as? Is that
It
game
is still big because the Lions would have home field over them.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Now here, let me go back to my childhood. The 1972 Dolphins. You ready?
Yeah.
The only unbeaten team in the history of the league had to go on the road to Pittsburgh because the NFL flip-flopped every other year.
Yeah.
The Central went 1 year, the East would have 1
Isn't
year,
that what-
the West would have 1 year.
Isn't
So
that
the
what happened in
Dolphins,
baseball?
the Dolphins went to the Super Bowl on the road,
Yeah.
and they changed that because it's ludicrous.
Dolphins were undefeated and win.
Yes,
They had
they
to
went
go
on the
through
road.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, nah.
Guys, we'll take a break. When we come back, Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings. Is it dead? What about the Steelers? What about the Giants? Does any team?
You heard Cam Hayward.
Yeah, you did.
You don't want it.
Talk about